what brought this topic to mind for you? This idea of how to be authentic to ourselves when in the midst of like navigating social situations.
Well, we're recording this in December as we approach the holidays, and yet this is a topic that is useful for all of us in many times in the year. And often in this time of year, in terms of clients and in terms of what people are walking through in their lives, this time of year tends to bring up a lot of social anxiety,
Mm,
family anxiety, having to be with people that are deeply challenging, uh, having to make choices as to whether to be with those people or whether to choose to be on our own. And oftentimes people tend to should
yeah.
themselves a lot, like I should go, I need to go, which sometimes there is a divine purpose for going, and we need to kind of push through our blocks or our tendency to avoid. And yet there are other times where possibly the answer is to take care of ourselves and to not step into certain social situations. And so,
Mm,
and also it's a time, I mean, there's so much where, again, we should ourselves around social gatherings, um, or we avoid, and perhaps there's a place in between.
mm,
That we find our own authentic heart, we find our own selves, and find a way to honor that, find a way to bring words to what we need. And some of those words might not be able to be totally 100% honest because the people that we're needing to tell can't handle honesty, but
right.
feel
Sure.
as authentic as we can in terms of communicating ourselves. And so I guess that's a long answer to your
Mm,
question. And yet there's so much to this topic, and it's so important. I even feel like social gatherings can sometimes be connecting with Facebook or Insta, like being on, it might not even be walking into an interaction. It's just
mm,
we socialize so much more than we're consciously aware of.
mm.
And maybe sometimes choosing to disengage from social media just to kind of give ourselves a clear space to get through whatever we're needing to get through without engaging in what other people are doing could be a really healthy choice. So um, anyway, again, there's lots of variants because I know that some people don't have like actual physical social engagements that they need to walk into, but there's, again, a big picture there as well.
Well, it might be helpful just to use like a really concrete example, but uh, like to take somebody who, I mean, I guess since it's around the holidays, we could use a holiday example, but of somebody who is deciding whether or not to attend something and feels anxiety and feels like, um, and so whatever, it's bringing up anxiety for them. And how do they know if this is like, oh, like how do you figure out for yourself, like, what are my needs? What are the needs that I'm projecting onto the other person? And like, how do I find that place of authenticity that both does honor myself and,
Yeah.
maybe family members or friends who have certain expectations?
Yeah. So often what happens is when we feel anxiety and we kind of feel it in our heart, we go straight into our head, we go into our story, and then we get all messed up because our story is complicated. Our minds tend
Good
to,
stories.
yeah, make up stories upon stories upon stories. And so it feels good in this moment to just lead us through an exercise, just a short exercise, um, that we just drop into our hearts. And so when we're trying to decide what is authentic to me, what is authentic to the relationship that I have with these people that I'm choosing to either go into interaction with or not. We ask these questions. So we drop into our hearts in this moment. We ask for the divine within us to rise up inside of us and activate in every cell of our being. We ask for divine light to embrace us and hold us in a space of divinity and light. And we ask for the energy of authenticity, our true self, true nature, to rise up into this space. And as we do that, we ask the question, this social engagement, this interaction with a friend or with multiple friends, does it feel authentic to me to engage in this social interaction? And we breathe again into our hearts. We might immediately go into our heads. We drop down into our heart and we ask the divine to activate within us and to support us in hearing the depths of our heart and soul. And we allow the answer to come and rise up. If we're getting a yes, no, it might not be time to fully decide. And it also might be as complicated as our brains are. It might be that our brains are complicated and we need to sit with it again. I feel like the tendency often is to avoid, meaning I don't want to feel it. I don't want to even investigate it. So I'm just going to walk away and maybe say, I don't know, I'll just, and sometimes with avoidance, it's avoiding saying no. So we will just say yes because we don't know what else to say. Sometimes avoidance is saying no, but then just maybe not dealing with the actual situation at the time. And so the big thing is to stop. We've been talking about in groups, stop, sit, and listen. And we, as a culture, don't tend to do that with the challenges that we face. We usually get up in our heads, we call a friend and tell the story, we listen to the story in our head. And when we drop down into our heart and call in divine space, we actually can find the authentic answer. If the answer is no, then the next step, and this is stuff that we'll do in group and talk through, would be to kind of find the right words or how to communicate it in a healthy way for ourselves and for the situation. And we'll do that in group. We'll talk about that in our group. But this is something that all of us can use just to at least settle, because again, we get into anxiety and there's no good answer in that place. There's an answer potentially, but it's not a clear and healthy answer.